We're men. We're men in tights. Tight tights. Robin Hood Men in Tights wasn't just a parody of the legendary outlaw. It was a razor-sharp Mel Brooks comedy that mocked Hollywood itself while stumbling through chaos behind the camera, from actors getting injured in slapstick gags to studio clashes over how far is too far. The set was a circus where tempers boiled and disasters struck. What audiences saw was polished parody, but what really happened was stranger than fiction. Today, we reveal 20 shocking facts about Robin Hood, Men in Tights, 1993, that they tried to hide. And wait until you hear the bonus fact, it's the wildest secret of all. Let's begin. Cary Elwes nearly quit over dangerous stunt. Audiences laugh at Cary Elwes swinging from ropes like a swashbuckler, but off camera, it nearly ended in disaster. During one take, the rigging holding Elwes snapped, sending him tumbling into set pieces. Crew members rushed in, fearing he had broken his back. He escaped with bruises, but reportedly threatened to walk unless safety was tightened. Ironically, Elwes had been hired partly for his Princess Bride sword-fighting credibility. The incident revealed how even safe slapstick can turn dangerous. What looks like effortless parody on-screen masked brutal rehearsals and real risks that almost lost the film its star. The studio downplayed the scare, but insiders recall panic on set. It wasn't just jokes, it was survival. Richard Lewis was seriously ill during filming. Richard Lewis, who played Prince John, was secretly suffering from severe back pain during production. According to his own interviews, he filmed many of his comedic scenes, including the famous mole gag, while on heavy medication. Crew members recall him lying flat between takes, only to spring upright when the camera rolled. Mel Brooks wanted his manic energy, but few knew Lewis was pushing through agony just to deliver lines. The mole joke became iconic, yet behind the laughter was a man hiding torment. Not comic timing, but sheer endurance. It showed the brutal reality of comedy. Pain often hides behind the punchline. Dave Chappelle's breakout came at a price. This movie marked Dave Chappelle's very first film role, and Brooks cast him after just one audition. But what audiences don't know is how much pressure the young comedian faced. Chappelle was only 19, constantly second-guessing his lines. He later admitted he felt out of place, surrounded by comedy veterans like Elwes and Lewis. Some insiders say Brooks was tough on him, forcing him to redo takes endlessly until he snapped. At one point, Chappelle reportedly stormed off set after a heated exchange, only to be coaxed back hours later. What looks like effortless wit on screen was forged in the fire of a brutal initiation. Chappelle's Hollywood career began here but nearly collapsed before it started. The studio tried to censor Mel Brooks. 20th Century Fox executives reportedly panicked when they saw the dailies. Brooks was pushing boundaries with raunchy jokes about race, gender, and politics far edgier than they expected. One exec allegedly demanded entire sequences be cut, including a joke about the Ku Klux Klan. Brooks fought back hard, threatening to walk unless his vision stayed intact. The compromise: trim some gags, but keep the bite. What audiences saw was still outrageous, but according to insiders, the original script was much darker and riskier. It wasn't just parody. It was cultural warfare, and Brooks refused to let the studio water him down completely. Costumes were a disaster behind the scenes. Those flamboyant tights weren't just funny, they were torture. Actors complained constantly about the skin-tight leggings, which tore during sword fights and restricted movement. Elwes reportedly split 3 pairs in a single day. The wardrobe department scrambled with constant emergency repairs, often sewing while cameras were rolling. Even worse, the hot California sun made the fabric unbearable, leading to heat exhaustion for background performers. What looks like glamorous parody was actually grueling discomfort. One extra joked, "The real villain wasn't Prince John, it was the tights." The costume gag got laughs on screen, but behind the scenes, it was a daily nightmare. Patrick Stewart's cameo almost didn't happen. Patrick Stewart's hilarious cameo as King Richard nearly fell apart at the last minute. Brooks had originally courted Sean Connery for the role, but Connery turned it down due to scheduling conflicts. Stewart, fresh from Star Trek: The Next Generation, was contacted only days before filming the scene. He agreed, but showed up jet-lagged from another shoot in London. According to crew accounts, Stewart nailed his lines in a single take, then immediately left for the airport. The polished royal entrance on screen hides the chaos of a last-second casting scramble. It wasn't regal elegance, it was pure improvisation to save the film's finale. Brooks later called Stewart's performance miraculous because it masked how close the film came to losing its king entirely. The Merry Men dance was a logistical nightmare. The big dance number where the Merry Men sing Men in Tights looks like joyous chaos. But behind the scenes, it was a nightmare of coordination. Choreographers struggled to wrangle dozens of extras in heavy costumes, many of whom had no dance training. Take after take was ruined by people forgetting steps, tripping, or knocking into set pieces. Cary Elwes later joked that he thought the scene would never, ever end. Mel Brooks reportedly grew so frustrated he threatened to cut the number entirely. Instead, he doubled rehearsal time, exhausting the cast. What looks like pure comic spontaneity was actually the result of sweat, bruises, and tempers pushed to the brink. Isaac Hayes was originally considered before Chappelle landed the role of Achu. Brooks reportedly considered Isaac Hayes, famous for Shaft, to play the part. The idea was to contrast Cary Elwes's prim Robin Hood with Hayes's booming authority, but negotiations collapsed when Hayes demanded too much screen time. Brooks pivoted to a younger, fresher choice, leading him to discover Chappelle. Insiders say the casting switch changed the entire tone of the film. Instead of parodying 1,970 seconds blaxploitation, the movie gained a sharp edge with Chappelle's youthful sarcasm. It wasn't the legend of Shaft, it was the birth of a future comedy star. Hayes's rejection ended up shaping Hollywood history in ways no one could have predicted. A horse nearly crushed Cary Elwes. In one of the jousting sequences, Cary Elwes's horse spooked and reared back unexpectedly. Crew members panicked as the animal nearly toppled onto the star. Elwes managed to leap free, but not before suffering cuts and bruises. Production halted for hours while the crew checked safety measures and calmed the shaken cast. What audiences saw was a clean, comic joust. What really happened was an almost fatal accident. Elwes reportedly swore off live horse stunts for the rest of the shoot, leaving body doubles to handle anything risky. Comedy hides danger, but this moment revealed how razor-thin the line between parody and tragedy can be. Mel Brooks slipped in a hidden self-reference. Around the halfway point of the movie, Robin Hood proclaims, "Unlike other Robin Hoods, I can speak with an English accent." It's a direct jab at Kevin Costner's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, 1991. But what audiences didn't realize was that Brooks had originally wanted to spoof his own work, specifically History of the World, Part 1. In an early draft, Robin was supposed to say, "At least I don't end my stories with a cliffhanger." Brooks cut it, fearing it was too self-indulgent. What survived was the Costner jab, which became one of the film's most quoted lines. Comedy wasn't just parody, it was Brooks rewriting his own cinematic legacy. Mel Brooks cast himself twice out of spite. Mel Brooks didn't just direct, he played both Rabbi Tuckman and the Don Giovanni-like mob boss. Why? According to crew members, Brooks was furious after Fox executives suggested cutting his screen time to make room for younger talent. In response, he doubled down, casting himself in two separate roles. The crew joked that Brooks was waging war on his own studio, turning the movie into both parody and personal rebellion. His Rabbi Tuckman scenes, including the infamous Miracle of the Wine, were shot over long nights where Brooks reportedly refused second takes, claiming, "I know when I'm funny." What looks like harmless comic ego was really Brooks flexing power in a film the studio kept trying to control. Cary Elwes mocked Kevin Costner off-camera too. The movie's best-known gag, Robin Hood, saying he can actually speak with an English accent, wasn't just scripted parody. Elwes reportedly roasted Kevin Costner relentlessly during downtime, cracking jokes about his flat delivery in Prince of Thieves. Crew members recall Elwes slipping into a faux American drawl to mimic Costner's infamous English performance. Mel Brooks encouraged it, telling Elwes to improvise insults for dailies just in case they could slip extras into the cut. Costner never responded publicly, but insiders claim he was furious, considering legal action. It wasn't just parody on film, it was real Hollywood rivalry spilling into production. The swamp scene was actually toxic. When Robin rescues Achu from the quicksand swamp, it looks like harmless slapstick. In reality, the swamp was a mixture of peat, mud, and chemical dyes that turned out to be unsafe. Several extras developed rashes after filming long takes in the muck. Dave Chappelle reportedly had to see a doctor after his skin reacted badly. The effects team admitted they hadn't properly tested the material before dumping actors into it. What played as harmless parody was actually dangerous exposure. It wasn't fake peril, it was real discomfort. The swamp gag left more than laughs. It left scars, both physical and mental, for some of the cast. Richard Lewis's mole was constantly moved as revenge. One of the funniest running gags in the film is Prince John's mole, which shifts position throughout the movie. What audiences didn't know is that the gag began as crew revenge. Lewis was notorious for showing up late, sometimes holding up shoots for hours. To punish him, makeup artists began secretly moving the mole between scenes. Brooks noticed, loved it, and incorporated it into the film. Lewis later admitted he was shocked when he saw the gag locked into the final cut, realizing the joke was on him as much as his character. Comedy wasn't just scripted, it was crew payback immortalized forever. The sword fights were brutally real. Though Robin Hood Men in Tights is a parody, its sword fights were choreographed with startling realism. Brooks hired stunt coordinators from The Princess Bride to make the fights credible, then layered comedy on top. Cary Elwes and stuntmen spent weeks rehearsing duels, often finishing days covered in bruises and cuts. Elwes later joked he bled more for Men in Tights than for The Princess Bride. One stunt double was even briefly hospitalized after being struck harder than intended. What audiences saw were slapstick sword fights. What they didn't know was that each laugh cost the actors sweat and pain. Comedy wasn't faked, it was fought for. Dave Chappelle nearly got cut from the final film. Even though Dave Chappelle's Ashu is now remembered as one of the highlights, his role almost didn't survive editing. Executives at Fox felt his lines were too modern and might alienate audiences expecting a medieval parody. At one point, memos circulated suggesting entire scenes with Chappelle be removed. Brooks fought back, insisting the character's anachronistic humor was the whole point. He argued that Achu's voice brought fresh energy and grounded the parody in contemporary satire. Without him, the film risked feeling stale. Ultimately, Brooks won. What looked like effortless breakout comedy on screen was actually a victory in a behind-the-scenes power struggle. Chappelle stayed, and Hollywood history was quietly altered. Robin Hood's wig was a running joke on set. Cary Elwes wore a custom wig to match the flowing locks of a classic fairy tale hero. But off-camera, the wig was a constant source of amusement. Crew members nicknamed it the Ferret because it had a tendency to slip and move during sword fights. Elwes hated it, complaining that it itched terribly in the California heat. In one ruined take, the wig actually flew off mid-duel, sending the cast into hysterics. Brooks refused to cut, insisting, "That's funnier than the script." Though the final film never shows the slip, insiders say the cast teased Elwes mercilessly about it. Comedy wasn't just on the page, it was woven into the hairpiece. Mel Brooks hid a political satire no one noticed. On the surface, Robin Hood Men in Tights is a parody of Costner's Prince of Thieves, but Brooks embedded a deeper layer, pointed satire of early 1990 seconds politics. The Sheriff of Rottingham's bumbling bureaucracy mirrored real-world frustrations with American government scandals of the time. Even Prince John's obsession with taxes was a jab at ongoing debates about tax and spend politics. Most audiences missed it, laughing at the slapstick instead. Brooks later hinted that the movie was his way of mocking politicians who steal from the poor while pretending to be noble. It wasn't just a medieval spoof, it was disguised political commentary. The cast revolted over endless night shoots. Many of the outdoor sequences, like Robin rallying, the merry men, were filmed at night. What audiences don't know is how miserable those shoots were. Actors endured freezing temperatures in thin tights, often filming until dawn. Richard Lewis complained so bitterly that Brooks began calling him Prince Wine off camera. Crew members remember extras huddling together just to stay warm. The final scenes look light and playful, but the atmosphere was brutal. Several cast members reportedly threatened to walk if schedules didn't change. Brooks pushed on, prioritizing the perfect comedic timing over comfort. Laughter on screen was born from exhaustion and near mutiny behind the camera. Cary Elwes almost didn't take the role. Elwes was initially reluctant to star in another swashbuckling parody after The Princess Bride. He feared being typecast as the eternal parody hero. Mel Brooks reportedly had to personally convince him, promising the role would be edgier and funnier than his previous work. Brooks even screened Elwes' early footage of the script's wilder jokes to win him over. Elwes finally agreed, but privately admitted later that he was uneasy during filming. Ironically, the role became one of his most beloved performances. What could have been a career retreat turned into a defining moment, not repetition, but reinvention. A lost ending was too controversial to release. Few fans know that Robin Hood Men in Tights originally had a darker alternate ending. In it, Robin exposes Prince John to the villagers by revealing he's been secretly hoarding gold stolen from peasants. The crowd then drags him off in a parody of medieval justice, an execution scene played for laughs. Test audiences reportedly hated it, calling it too violent for a comedy. The studio ordered Brooks to reshoot, replacing it with Patrick Stewart's royal wedding cameo. That cut ending has never been officially released, but rumors say a rough print still exists in Brooks's archives. What the world saw was triumph and laughter, but hidden in the vault is a finale too brutal to share. Robin Hood Men in Tights looked like harmless parody, but behind the tights was chaos, injuries, studio wars, bitter cold nights, and comedy forged from pain. What audiences got was Mel Brooks at his sharpest, turning disaster into satire and conflict into timeless laughs. If you enjoyed uncovering these secrets, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more hidden Hollywood truths. And remember, sometimes the funniest movies hide the darkest realities.